Welcome to today's explainer. Let's jump right in. I want you to close your eyes for just a second and picture a classic American bowling alley. You can hear it, right? The low, continuous rumble of a heavy ball rolling down a polished wood lane, and then, bam, that explosive, incredibly satisfying crash of pins scattering everywhere. It's a sound we all instantly associate with fun, friends, and just classic old-school Americana. But I want you to picture something else in that exact same scene. Picture a child, crouched in the shadows, directly behind those flying pins, literally close enough to get hit. Their job? The absolute second that heavy ball crashes through, they have to jump out, grab the fallen wood, reset every single pin entirely by hand, and scramble back out of the way before the next ball comes flying down the lane. Over and over again, all night long. Today we're diving into a genuinely shocking piece of hidden history, the dangerous, incredibly fast-paced era of the pin boys.
So how did this even happen? Well, to understand it, we have to look at the sheer logistics of the time. Bowling became enormously popular across America throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s. Alleys were popping up in nearly every single town and city. It was the staple of weekend entertainment. But there was a massive logistical hurdle holding the whole operation back. Every single time a bowler knocked down those pins, someone had to physically go collect them, stand them back up in the exact correct formation, and return that heavy ball to the bowler before the next frame could even start. For most of bowling's early history, there simply was no automatic machine to clear the lane and set things up after the crash. The technology just didn't exist yet. So as these entertainment hubs expanded, alley owners found themselves facing a very simple yet defining question: who resets the pins?
And the solution to that massive mechanical problem? A human being. Specifically, alley owners turned to cheap, readily available labor to sit directly in the dangerous impact zone. These were real children, literally acting as the human gears of a massive entertainment machine. And we aren't talking about some isolated incident or a rare occurrence in a few sketchy back alley spots. No way. This was a standardized, everyday job held by tens of thousands of young boys across the country for decades. The entire industry's explosive growth rested squarely on the shoulders of these kids, crouching in the dark. Now, what is truly staggering here is the sheer youth of this workforce. The vast majority of these essential workers were young boys between the ages of just 10 and 16 years old. Think about that for a second. This massive, booming recreational industry, an absolute cornerstone of American leisure, relied almost entirely on the cheap, unregulated labor of adolescents and preteens. Every single night the alley was open, these kids were hired specifically to sit right behind the pins. They were the invisible engine that kept America's favorite pastime running smoothly, totally hidden away from the bright lights and the laughter of the paying customers just a few feet down the lane.
We really need to understand just how frantic and physically demanding the mechanics of this job were. The pin boys sat, or crouched, on this small elevated platform just inches behind where the pins stood. The absolute second that heavy ball struck, boom, they sprang into action. They had to instantly clear the fallen wood, wrestle the remaining pins into an exact formation using a heavy template, and then physically hurl the heavy ball back down the return track. And the kicker? They had just seconds to pull this entire sequence off before the next ball came flying at them. During busy nights, a single boy would do this continuous, high-speed dance, jumping between lanes for dozens of different bowlers throughout an entire shift that lasted several grueling hours. There was zero time to rest. The whole pace of the game was dictated by exactly how fast they could move.
You're probably wondering, why on earth would any child subject themselves to this kind of frantic, exhausting danger? Well, the answer, as it so often is in history, was simple survival. The pay was extremely low. We're talking just a few cents per game. This meant that to earn any meaningful amount of money during a single shift to take home to their families, they had to work incredibly fast and consistently without breaks. For many working-class kids, particularly those from immigrant or low-income neighborhoods, pinsetting offered one of the very few paying jobs actually available to someone their age. It was just a stark, unavoidable reality of economic necessity, driving kids into exhausting, physically demanding work just to help make ends meet.
And make no mistake, every single shift was a gauntlet. Imagine dodging flying, bouncing wood shrapnel spattered by the explosive force of a bowling ball impact, usually with absolutely no protective barriers in front of you. Bruises, cuts, and crushed fingers, those were just part of the daily routine. One slip in timing meant risking a direct hit from a massive incoming ball if you didn't clear the lane fast enough, or if a bowler just carelessly threw out a turn. Then there's the repetitive physical strain of constantly bending, lifting, and resetting heavy wooden pins for hours on end. That took a massive toll on young, still developing bodies.
Add to that the cramped, dusty, poorly lit spaces they were confined to, and the harsh reality that many of these school-aged kids were working late into the night, sometimes past midnight on a school night, just to keep the lanes moving. But, looking back, we really shouldn't frame these boys merely as helpless victims of circumstance. Actually, scratch that. They were highly skilled, incredibly resilient workers. Being a truly good pin boy required real athleticism and lightning-fast reflexes. They possessed immense physical stamina. I mean, they had the explosive speed to clear a lane in a matter of seconds, which is what allowed these alleys to run profitably in the first place. They also needed absolute precision. Any mistake in setting up that standardized triangular pattern would immediately lead to complaints from bowlers or angry scoring disputes. Experienced pin boys developed incredible timing and spatial awareness, knowing the exact millisecond it was safe to step onto the lane and when they needed to bail out. Because of this intense skill level, the best pin boys were highly respected in the alley. They were frequently requested by name by managers or serious regular customers who demanded top-tier speed and reliability during high-volume tournaments. For decades, this massive army of human pinsetters seemed entirely irreplaceable. From the bowling boom of the late 1800s right through their mid-1900s peak, they were a permanent fixture of the sport. Bowling alley owners simply had no alternative. That is, until the early 1950s. That's when a massive technological savior arrived. A company called AMF, American Machine and Foundry, introduced the first fully automated pin-setting machine. This mechanical marvel was a total game-changer. It could automatically detect knockdown pins, seamlessly clear the lane, and drop a perfect new formation down without a single human hand involved. The shift was absolute. By the 1960s, this grueling manual job that had employed hundreds of thousands of kids had effectively vanished almost overnight.
If you owned a bowling alley at that point, the choice was an absolute no-brainer. Stick with the dangerous, unpredictable human era, or embrace the safe, automated efficiency of the machine era. The impact of the AMF machine was massive and immediate. The human era was defined by dangerous, cheap labor that completely relied on manual speed, physical endurance, and, frankly, the economic desperation of youth. The machine era, on the other hand, offered unprecedented, safe, 24/7 efficiency. Alleys saw enormous, game-changing benefits: faster gameplay for the customers, dramatically improved safety, and significant long-term cost savings compared to continuously hiring, paying, and managing dozens of human pin boys. Within a single decade, the machines definitively won the battle. Today, the job of the pin boy is entirely gone. Sure, you might find a few specialty or vintage bowling alleys that occasionally offer manual pin setting as a nostalgic novelty experience, but the harsh, everyday reality of the profession, it's a ghost of the past. Yet the legacy of the pin boys remains profound. It stands as a really sobering historical example of a socially accepted child labor practice that persisted well into the 20th century, way after growing public awareness and strict regulations had effectively stopped child labor in other major industries. Furthermore, this swift transition from human pin boys to AMF machines serves as a brilliant early blueprint for mass industrial automation. It's a crystal-clear pattern of a piece of technology directly and almost instantly replacing a widespread human labor role on a national scale. Modern bowling alleys operate today without a single human ever stepping foot behind the pins. We don't even think about it when we bowl. But for decades, it was those quick hands of working-class kids that quietly kept one of America's absolute favorite pastimes running, one reset pin at a time. It really makes you think about the human cost historically hidden right behind our daily conveniences and pastimes. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider. As automation continues to rapidly replace human hands across so many different industries today, what modern invisible jobs are we relying on right now that will be viewed with the exact same shock by future generations? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the history hiding just behind the scenes.